In this video, we're going to walk you through the episodic marketing framework from Tribe Tactics. This is basically what you need when it comes to starting your very own original series or your very own video series. Because here's the thing, like you may have already come up with the idea to do a video series, but ultimately it's something that, needs a lot of planning, needs a lot of convincing internally. Sometimes you have the idea, but you need to get everybody else in on it. Or maybe you might be at the stage where everybody's on board, but it's on you to put a robust plan together and not just something that will be, cool, but rather something that will also deliver on bottom line results. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I have this loaded up. We're going to jump right into it. And today is just going to be an overview video, but do watch out for other videos where we go into even more detail onto every one of these subtopics. So the process is pretty much plan, produce, repurpose, and distribute. And this corresponds to the main pillars that are a very crucial part of any successful show that we've seen being created. It's definitely what we apply to ourselves and to our customers as well. So for the planning stage, there's three different points there. So show strategy, topics, and guests. Show strategy basically covers everything to do with the goal behind your show, as well as the intended audience for your show. So for example, you may have three different personas, but only one persona is the one in question when you're creating that show, as well as things like the video series type, like the show type, as well as the genre of it and the positioning statement for that show. So ultimately, you're going to end up with a one-page brief that will be very easy for you to communicate what this show is about, what the goal of the show is, as well as who it's for. Perfect. So once you have the show strategy piece done, from there you can then transition into selecting topics based and this is actually going to go a lot easier because once you know what your show is about and who it's for, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to come up with topics. And broadly speaking, these topics could be related to educational topics, so things that would be FAQs on your customers' minds or your audience's minds. But it could also be a lot more deeper than that, and we're going to do a special video just on topics to go into that in a lot more depth. But ultimately, once you come up with the topics, you can then start to match it with the best people, perhaps in your circle or other colleagues' circles, that you can actually bring onto the show. And by the way, these guests are not always external. The guests could actually be people from other departments. They could even be your existing customers, prospects, or just influential people in your specific area of domain expertise. Once we're done with the planning stage, we start getting into more of the nitty-gritty production stuff. So that's where we go into produce. And in produce, we have AV setup, recording, and publishing. AV setup stands for audio-video setup. And it could basically be as simple or as sophisticated as you need it to be. For example, you could get started with simply, like a Zoom recording setup where you're interviewing guests, let's say in like a classic like podcast talk show. You could very easily use something like Zoom to record that call, and that could be as minimalist and as simple as that. And of course, from there you could start to add more things that would make it a lot more richer in quality across the video side and the audio side. Again, we're going to do a specific video on AV setup to go into a bit more depth onto that, talking about like different cameras, how to even use your smartphone cameras if you don't have cameras to hand. And then from there, you go into the actual recording piece. So whether you're going to be live streaming this while you're actually filming the episode live, or if you're going to, for example, get the episode done and post-produced and then market it as a premiere, where maybe you would be on the episode to answer any questions or an answers live, or everything as well towards like what platforms will your episode air on? Will it be on YouTube? Will it be on your website as well? How are you going to be distributing it on social media? And we're going to be talking about that again in a separate video, but just to give you an overview, that would pretty much cover recording and publishing. So we're going to be doing specific videos on those coming up soon, so watch out for those. The next section then would be repurpose. So repurposing is pretty much half of the game over here, because once you have these episodes, I'm guessing they're going to be at least 10 minutes long. More likely they're going to be 20, 30 minutes. That's usually the median that we see with our customers. When you have something like that, you know already that it is ripe for repurposing. And not everyone who's going to, the same way that, not everyone goes to watch a movie right away before actually watching a trailer. It's the exact same concept that you bring to your shows over here. You want to find all the different ways that you could actually create additional content across different formats, such as video, audio, written, and even image content, but also across different channels. What am I going to create for LinkedIn? What am I going to create, for Facebook, for Instagram, for Twitter, for YouTube? So it all depends on the different, platforms that you're going to be focused on. And then last but not least, probably one of the most important things about repurposing is the use case. Is all this content going to be used by marketing only, or are there implications to use that same content for social selling efforts, right? So how do we actually use this as an opportunity as marketing to get closer to the sales team and build more alignment by way of actually creating smaller micro content pieces that could actually be used as part of their sales process and their outreach process to start conversations. Again, we're going to be doing separate videos on all of those, so watch this space. Last but not least, then we go into distribute. So repurpose and distribute, they could mean different things for different people. Some people may think of them as the same thing. We think of them as slightly different. So distribute means we already have the long episodes. We call those the pillars, and the repurposed content, so we call that the micro content that comes out of it. So for distribution, we're huge advocates and fans of actually using all the personal brands at your company, as in the personal brands of all the employees, your team members in the company, and tapping into those when it's time to actually share that content on, as well as, or rather in addition to your brand channels. Many times, a lot of us would jump to post content only on the company channels and not really have a robust strategy for sharing that content, internally, and having people share it and put their own signature on it in their own special way. So we're going to be talking about that in a separate dedicated video, but I did want to introduce the topic, by way of an overview today across personal brands, brand channels, and last but not least, of course, is your community. So who are the fans of your brand? Who are the people that like all your posts, right? When you post something out, both again on the company level, but also on the personal level. How do we actually get those people involved and make them part of that story? So hopefully today you got an overview of what the episodic marketing framework is about. Essentially, it's plan, produce, repurpose, and distribute. And you could make every stage as simple or as sophisticated as you need it to be, but keep these things in mind for your next video series, and you'll be sure to see a lot more results from it. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.